So again, you all know me. I'm Alfred Edmond, Jr. I'm Senior Vice President and Executive Editor of Black Enterprise. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm your mentor, I'm your brother, I'm your father, son that wants you longer and healthier because we need each and every one of you. That's what this conversation is about. It is hard to make money. It is hard to build wealth. It's hard to build a career that leads to the C-suite. It's hard to build a multi-million dollar or multi-billion dollar company if you're sick or you're dead. I'm very, very serious about this. I can tell you over my 37 plus years at Black Enterprise, how many black businesses folded not because the business failed, but because the entrepreneur that founded it failed. His mind failed, his body failed. That means the business failed. When the entrepreneur goes down, it all goes down. If you're a top executive in a corporation and you're leading the charge and you're building and climbing your way to the C-suite, which we know is not easy on any front and certainly not easy for black men, you know that you can and will break before you get there unless you're very serious about your mental health. We had our session on mental health yesterday, your emotional health and your physical health. And by the way, all those three things are connected. They're not isolated things. So the panel that we brought together are brothers who are equally passionate about this topic, but also the top experts in their spaces as it relates to what it means to live fuller, longer, healthier, more productive lives. So please welcome to the stage Dr. Philippe Douyon, neurologist and founder of the Inle, and if I say it wrong, Philippe, correct me, BrainFit Institute. Please come to the stage. Also, we have Julian Hayes II, founder of Executive Health. And last but certainly not least, Justin P. Grant, who's the Deputy Global Head of Advancing Black Pathways at JP Chase. And he'll talk about it some more, but he's also about to release a book specifically focused on the health and well-being of black executives in corporate America. So brothers, I've obviously introduced you by name and affiliation, but I'd like you to, each of you, starting with Justin, and work your way back toward me, to talk a little about who you are, what you do, and obviously I want you to talk about the book, which I know we'll get into.
Yep, so my day job is as the Deputy Global Head of Advancing Black Pathways at JP Chase. And Advancing Black Pathways is a center of excellence within our DEI organization. And yes, we still have a DEI organization. Yes. And we are focused on devising strategies and serving almost as a conscience for our bank in terms of how to best serve black communities, how to best connect to black investors. We're focused on recruiting black talent because we can't serve the black community if we don't have bankers and leaders and executives that are not reflective of that population. So that's the day job. I'm also a writer, and in February I'll be releasing my first book. It's called Company Men, A Wellness Guide for Black Men in Corporate America. And I was inspired to write this book for personal reasons. So, back in 2002, I lost Superman. Superman died on December 29th, 2002, as far as I'm concerned. That's when my uncle, Juan Simpson, passed away of a heart attack. He was a senior executive of Johnson & Johnson. He was the picture of health. He was the hero for our family, and we lost him. And over the last 20 years, I've sought to make sense of what happened. Why did this happen? And after working in corporate America as a black man for the last 20 years, I can understand the level of stress that he was dealing with. And make no mistake about it, working in corporate America is challenging no matter what your background is, black, white, whatever. But when you're black, and when you're a black man, it's a special kind of challenge because we have the second lowest life expectancy of any demographic in this country. The only people who are living shorter lives are our brothers from the Eskimo/Native American populations. So we have the second lowest life expectancy. The other thing that we have to be mindful of is as we climb that socioeconomic ladder, as we get the education, as we get the job and all the things that come with it, our likelihood of developing anxiety and depression actually rises alongside that. That does not happen with any other demographic group, so there's something going on there. The other thing that we have to be mindful of is that we are less likely, we're sicker than our white peers, we're less wealthy than our white peers, we're less likely to know our cholesterol numbers, we're less likely to know what our blood pressure is, or even keep that under control. And so my book is all about helping black men understand how to maintain that sense of wellness, how to deal with stress, how to deal with the social component, and how to even turn your wages into wealth. All of the dimensions of wellness I talk about in the book. So I hope to have it here next year at the conference, Alfred. Alfred wrote the foreword to it. I appreciate him for that. And I'm looking forward to this dialogue with these fine gentlemen right here this morning.
Now, Dr. Philippe, this is the magic of this event that we strive to recreate. I met him because last year he came, and I think it was my son who was like, oh, you got to meet my dad. And he brought you over to my table.
That's right.
And because as soon as he found out you were a neurologist, he knows I'm into brain health. He's like, oh my God, he's been looking for you. and here we are now. You've been a guest on my show, Beyond the Hype. And I want to stress, brain health is a very specific thing that's connected to all the rest of your health, but it's not exactly the same thing as therapy. See, we think of brain, we think of mental health, we think, right. But you're talking about something very, very different. So, Dr. Philippe?
Sure. So I'm Dr. Philippe Douyon. I'm a board-certified neurologist. I'm an author, a speaker, the founder of the Inle BrainFit Institute, but I'm also a 2-time kidney transplant recipient, being diagnosed with kidney failure when I was 18 years old. And I have used my specialized knowledge, the lessons that I've learned treating thousands of patients, tens of thousands of patients all around the world, as well as the lessons that I've learned as somebody who's been dealing with kidney issues from the time that I was 18 years old. I've taken all those lessons and helped thousands of people and businesses rewire their brains for health and for success, right? Like he was saying, we tend to live longer and we tend to be sicker earlier. But a lot of that has to do with our mindset. And in order for us to create the kind of lives that we want, to live healthier for longer, to create the kind of wealth that we want, it requires a change in the way that we think. We just need to rewire our brains for success in health, in business, and in life.
Excellent, excellent. Now, this brother here, a big part of my job for this event is to find the right people to put on the stage. And that doesn't mean they're automatically already in my Rolodex. That's an old term. In my contacts on my phone. You got me right, bro, you got me. So I got to do scouting. So people are like, oh, Alfred's good at scouting out talent. He knows how to get people on the stage we didn't know existed. Because we have a rule at Black Enterprise. There is a black expert on everything somewhere. You just got to find them. A lot of times we think, oh, there's nobody black who knows that. And my man here, this is our first time meeting face to face.
It is.
Julian Hayes is that dude. I was like, I need a guy who is like the dude in executive health. And he's like, yes, not only that dude, name of my company is Executive Health. So please introduce yourself and talk about why you're here on the stage.
Well, first of all, I really appreciate being invited here. This is just an amazing thing. It's ironic that a week from now, or 8 days from now, it would be my father's birthday, and he's not here now. And just to see a room full of black men, I see my uncles, I see my father, I see my cousins, and I see my friends who didn't take their health seriously enough. But my father did toward the end. My father was on dialysis, and part of my journey was seeing that and beating what people like to say is our destiny, that this runs in our family. So it inevitably it's going to come to you. And I didn't like that. I really do not like any sort of labels. I really do not like any labels. And that's how I look at health. So as he said, my name is Julian Hayes II, founder of Executive Health. I went to medical school for a year, and then I decided to leave because I had a bunch of other different projects I want to get a hold of. But my whole thing is about world-class health, world-class performance, and optimizing our health, total human optimization, going beyond what we even think. Because a lot of times when we think about health, we just want to be free of disease. I think we can do better than that. What about thriving with our health? What about thriving with our business? So in a nutshell, when we think about executive health, it's about being a CEO of your health and your life. Now, granted, I work with entrepreneurs and advise them and executives and stuff, but really, each of us are the CEO of our health and life. Each of us in here are athletes. If you're trying to climb that corporate ladder, if you're trying to build that business, you're very much an athlete because it's not going to come in 2 years, 3 years. It's going to take time. So we have to approach ourselves like an athlete. And secondly, I also have a column at Forbes. I write for the Forbes CEO Network weekly where I write about the intersection of business, leadership, and wellness. And personally, I love to run, so I do ultra marathons. I also lift a lot of weights, and we'll connect on that.
Right.
And so I'm just really infatuated with the human body and just really extending lifespan and going beyond and destroying narratives.
Yeah, I want to build on that idea a little bit, not too much time, on the idea that we should approach, and you guys know me well enough, I mean, you're just getting to know me, but they know me well enough to know, I do approach my life. People say, why are you training so hard? I'm like, it's not really for the bodybuilding competitions. That's kind of a fun thing to do. It's like my fun side sport. I am literally training for the life that I want to live. You know, I am training, I'm a professional athlete in the game of life. And we've talked about how, especially if you're trying to build a large, successful business, especially if you're trying to make that gauntlet, Justin, of trying to get to the C-suite, which is an actual gauntlet with all of the maces and the weapons that you have to get past and the obstacles to get there, that you really do need to think of yourself as a professional athlete to have the resilience, the strength, the rebound, the mental health, the recovery ability to get wherever your goal is. So weigh in, Dr. Philippe, I'd like you to start on this idea of the living and treating our minds, our bodies, our brains, the way we want to be able to perform in our lives.
So exercise is the biggest promoter of neuroplasticity. That's your brain's ability to make new neurons and new connections. It speaks to your brain's ability to heal, to adapt, and to learn. And remember when we were all in school, like an hour before we had to take a test, that we'd go cram, right? Studies show that you're better off going for a workout an hour before than it is trying to cram more information. You'll learn more, retain more, and be able to perform better on those tests. And so when we look at our professional athletes, like I grew up playing and competing in tennis, right? So you take somebody like Serena Williams. When Serena Williams is playing tennis, if she won a tournament in Italy this week, she would deliver her victory speech in Italian. Next week, if she went and won a tournament in France, she'd deliver her victory speech in French. Serena Williams doesn't live in Italy. She doesn't live in Paris. But what professional athletes do is that they're giving their brains everything their brains need in order to learn information efficiently. That's why your high-level professional athletes, when they retire, they then go on to become billionaires because they're able to learn the business lessons efficiently. You've got to treat your brain and body like professional athletes treat their brains and body, right? And your ability to stave off chronic illnesses that cause deterioration, not just in your body, but in your brain, that's well within your control. It's based on the choices that you make every single day.
Justin, you and I talked, especially when you gave me the honor of writing the foreword for your book, about the things we've seen, not only your cousin or your brother?
My uncle.
Your uncle, excuse me. And I was telling you about Bernard Tyson.
That's right.
Who, at the age of 60, gave a speech at a conference. Bernard was the CEO of Kaiser Permanente, a great person.
He was the man.
In the office and out of the office, great for the community, gave a speech, went back to his hotel room and died of a heart attack. And again, at Black Enterprise, we've seen those stories over and over again, though they don't always make the headlines that one did. Talk to me, because you're not only did you see it, not only are you living it as an executive at Chase, what we're really talking about facing when we're talking about the pressures of navigating corporate America as a black man, and why that inspired you to write this book.
Yeah, you know, it's not for the faint of heart, right? Like I said earlier, that no matter what your background is, climbing that ladder, it is a gauntlet. You're dealing with the politics of corporate environments. You're dealing with having to manage your performance, manage your brand. It's a lot. And we also live in this American culture which emphasizes the hustle. It emphasizes the grind and putting in the work and chasing the dollar. And we tend to put those material things before ourselves. And one of the things that I experienced in my career, I'm just going to point back to the period of time when this all became a serious topic for me, was 2021. March of 2021, my wife had just given birth to our third child. It was a super stressful time. I don't know how many of y'all have kids in here, but having a newborn is tough. My father was dying. He was about 8 weeks away from dying of stage 4 lung cancer. We were right in the height of COVID. I'm dealing with a high pressure job. And so, dealing with that pressure, I sought avenues of comfort that were not necessarily healthy. And so for me, the avenues of comfort were Shake Shack, right? Krispy Kreme, my local bagel shop. And look, I would run. So I'm a runner, just like you. And I was crushing the hills of New Jersey, getting my miles in, 12 miles a week, thinking, oh, I'm getting my miles in. I can eat whatever I want. No. So my wife was on me. She sent me to go get my physical. Men live longer when they're married, too. 'Cause they do.
That's true.
So she sends me to the doctor, and I do the blood work or whatever. And if you're over 40, your physical changes a lot after you turn 40. And I go to the doctor, and he hit me with, you got elevated blood sugar. You have prediabetes, sir. You have prehypertension. Your cholesterol, it's not in the danger zone, but it's higher than it needs to be. And, you're not sick, you're still healthy, but you're like a car that has every check engine warning light flashing.
Yeah.
And so he didn't write me a prescription for Lipitor or for diuretic to get my blood pressure under control. He gave me a list of films to watch and books to read. So I want y'all to capture these. So I want y'all to watch Blue Zones if you haven't watched it. I want you to watch Forks Over Knives if you haven't watched it. I want you to order the book Undo It by Dean Ornish if you haven't read it. And so I got all of these materials. Game Changers on Netflix is another good one. And so I looked at the commonalities of everything that this doctor was recommending. And he was recommending a whole food, plant-based diet. He was recommending I cut down on the animal fats. He was recommending that I stop eating anything that God did not create, right? All man-made processed things. And he was recommending that I get at minimum 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise a week, lifting the weights. You got to train, you got to lift weights. Weightlifting is important, right? Because it changes how your body stores and uses glucose. So hit that weight room, fellas. And like my brother just said here, I have blocked out, so nobody can put time on my calendar early in the day at JP Morgan. I got a few colleagues in this room. They will always see my Outlook blocked out at a certain time of day. And why is that? Because I'm in the gym. It's the first thing I do every day as I work out. And like my brother said right here, working out has made me smarter. I go into work and I'm ready to crush it. My brain is firing on all cylinders. If I have a meeting with the CEO of our business, I'm ready to go because I didn't cram, but I hit the gym first. So I want y'all to check out those films, check out the book, and this isn't lecture or anything like that, but it will increase your health span, which will then increase your lifespan.
I want to hit on two things. One, I want to hit a little bit about family history. As of this month, it'll be the 15th anniversary of my year as a prostate cancer patient. 15 years, and it was such a non-event because they caught it so early, but I didn't know until 2 months before my surgery that my father had it and my grandfather had it. And now, of course, my son and my grandson are equipped in a way that I wasn't. So family history is important. The other point I want to make, and Justin, I'll start with you. Justin, excuse me. No, Julian, excuse me, forgive me, is this idea that if we look healthy, we are healthy. Mm-hmm. And I tell people all the time, fit people die of heart attacks all the time. There's a difference between being fit and healthy. They're correlated. In the bodybuilding space, mm-hmm. Bodybuilders be dropping like flies, sadly. And often because some of them, I'm a natural, but there are many people who are using or have used performance-enhancing substances that may look good on today, but have long-term effects on your organs later. But talk about the difference between, I run. I don't need to go to the doctor, I'm good. I hit the gym 5 days a week, I'm good. But that's not the same
That's right.
as actually knowing your numbers and knowing the things that you need to do So you don't have to wait for the check engine light to come on.
Yeah.
You know?
I pretty much look at this like a car.
Yes.
Sometimes. And we'll go to the car wash, and we'll clean it up. It's a nice Saturday and everything. But the motor and all that stuff is terrible.
Right.
And you're trying to decorate that. And one thing that I've had to do, and usually people I talk to, is a lot of us have an ego, and you need an ego. You very much need an ego to climb the ladder, to build a business. You very much need that. And so I have relied on data, because data is a third party that has no affiliation. It's not going to be biased on any side. Data is just data, and you can present that to someone. And so one thing you can basically do is using something like wearable technology. So on my wrist right now, I have my metrics, basic metrics that I keep every day. And I'm sure a lot of people have their Apple Watches and other different things. That's a daily check-in. And what you're doing right there is you're establishing a baseline of how your body's functioning. And so you're going to know when something's off, well ahead of things. And then when we think about a physical, a lot of times we want to avoid that because we're scared to face the problem. And I think of this also like a credit card then. Whereas if you're having something that has a lot of interest and you just keep pretending that it's not there, it's just going to continue to keep accumulating. And over time, you're just building a bigger and bigger and bigger problem that you're going to have to eventually face down the line. And another thing that's probably uncomfortable when we think about health is all of us know that we should exercise, we should eat healthier, but not all of us make that a must. And so I'd like to find out, how can you make that a must instead of just a should right now? I should be doing more. How can you make that a must? Because those with families in here, you must take care of your family. It's a priority. It's a non-negotiable. So how can you psychologically rewire yourself to do that with your health and your fitness? Each of us is going to be different in that. What makes me motivated and wires me is going to be different than what's going to do for each of us in here. But if you can find that, a lot of these other things that you don't want to do, it's going to be a little easier to go do.
You know, Dr. Philippe, and I definitely want you to talk about the resource that we talked about earlier, I think yesterday. But first of all, let me say this. We want you to start lining up for questions and answers. We really do mean questions, brothers. I'm not going to give the same speech I gave a little earlier. We want to get as many questions in as possible, so resist the urge to turn into a panelist. Just give us a question. But I want to build on what Julian just said about the shoulds versus what we do. And you spend a lot of time passionately talking about some things that we should do that we don't want to do, and really society doesn't really want us to do when it comes to our brain health. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So I think a lot of us like to think of ourselves as kings. The legacy of the African king is in our physical strength, it's in our wisdom, it's in our willingness to take accountability for each other and to be leaders. And I think we've been brainwashed in a way where we have forgotten who we are as black kings. And we need to stop doing what we see our white counterparts doing. One of the things that we do that is killing us every single day is drinking. There is no benefit that alcohol has. And frankly, the assault on black men is not just on our physical bodies, but it's also on our brains. You will see the top industry leaders, more and more, they're starting to make decisions to stay away from alcohol because you don't have clarity of mind, right? Not only is it associated with 200 different diseases and everything bad that happens in society, from murders to rapes to robberies to accidental deaths, but also, if I'm somebody who is the power that be and I want to keep black men down, I'm going to tell you, yeah, go ahead and drink. Because now you can't think for yourself. You don't have the mental clarity to make decisions. You don't have the mental clarity to move yourself forward. And the same thing is with people who are constantly smoking weed. Both alcohol and marijuana change your brain in some really negative ways. They shrink your brain. Alcohol is one of the biggest contributors to dementia. The dementia that you develop at age 60 or 70 started with the decisions that you were making at 20 and 30. You don't develop dementia at the time when your doctor diagnoses it. That's been going on for the last 20, 30 years. So everybody that was out drinking last night, you're probably going to see me in the office in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Everybody that was out smoking cigars, what was it, cigar and cognac last night, I'm going to give you my card. Keep it, because you're going to see me very, very soon. And it's not just going to be for dementia. It's going to be for strokes. It's going to be for epilepsy. It's going to be for neuropathy. It's going to be for a whole host of neurological, mental, and physical illnesses. If you want to be a black king, you need to start acting like a black king. And that means you got to take care of your brain and your body and take accountability for each other. Let the white people do what they want to do.
I bring Dr. Philippe to drop the bomb at every session. Yeah, that's what I bring him to do. He looks so innocent and intellectual, right? Listen, we want to get to Q&A, and while, who has the mic? And okay, Ramesh, please, question and answer. And name and organization, question and answer. Mic on? We'll get in as many in as you let us get in, okay?
Okay.
And
Hey.
how much time we got left? Just so I can keep track. What's my time cue? 15 minutes, okay.
Hey, Maurice Kauser, representing United Health Group out of Southern California. Pleasure to hear you gentlemen speak, offering great advice. One of the questions I have for you, talking about eating well, working out, what are your thoughts on meditation, wellness, just getting in the headspace? It's not something that we talk about. A lot of people freaked out by something like that, but it's something that I've been trying to get into a little bit more. It's not an easy path to go down. But have you guys had any experience with that and any suggestions to share?
Yeah, it's something that I've had to do. It's funny, a lot of times, a lot of very extreme athletes use, instead of alcohol, because I agree with that, they avoid alcohol, but what they start doing is using exercise as a form of an outlet. A lot of times, high-charging men need an outlet, and exercise is that for me, exercise is that for them. But we still have this emotional distress that is still with us. And meditation has changed my life. It's made me calmer and more even-keeled, because I'm usually just all over the place. And so I'm sitting up here, I'm calm, because I meditated this morning after I ran. And there's different forms of meditation. There's different, you can do any type. There's a great app called Insight Timer. It's free, and it has guided meditations. It has just musical ones if you just want to hear some kind of calming music. And I started with 5 minutes. I do 10 minutes minimum at a session now, and I try to do a couple times a day. And when you're doing that, to piggyback on him talking about brain health, this is really good for your brain. You can even look at the epigenome, and just a quick thing of that, we have genetics, but then we probably haven't heard of epigenetics, and that's above that gene. Whereas our genes are going to stay the same, of course, but that epigenome can change by some of the decisions that we make, not drinking, exercising. And that's where we have more power than we think we do when it comes to saying these things run in our family, quote unquote. Well, it can run in our family because the decisions that we make is going to activate some of those genes that's going to make that a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we don't have to do that. We have way more control over our destiny than we do. So when we hear that this runs in our family, our genes, our genetics, that's just a clue to our past, but the epigenetic part, we can mold that, and that's our future. And so the meditation part, I forgot to study on that, but I want to say it was maybe 30 to 40% of the genes that you could change in the epigenome positively just from being a meditator.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Rudy Moise. I'm a aesthetic physician, and I have a medical spa in North Miami. And I have a question for Dr. Douyon and also Justin. Dr. Douyon, you mentioned about drinking. I agree with you. Excessive drinking will affect you. How about socially? If you have a dinner, you have a glass of wine, things like that. I mean, do you also suggesting that social drinking is to be managed as well? That's number one. Number two, Justin, I cannot wait to read your book, okay? Like I said, I have a medical spa in North Miami, and I keep on saying to my clients that image is currency. The way you look is important to open doors for you. You're not going to believe it, but I am 70 years old. I am 70. and I've been using my technology so I can look good, and that opened doors for me. But I tell you, I have no problem with women coming to the office. They want to look good. But black men is a pain, man. They, for whatever reason, this thing is like, excuse me, sissy-ish to come and get taking care of yourself. So what advice could you give to my brothers to help them, to make them understand that image is currency and they need to take care of themselves?
So let's start.
I guess, yeah,
Go
I'll
first.
Yeah, so there's no amount of alcohol that is healthy for you, right?
Say that again.
No amount of alcohol is healthy for you. The studies that came out in the 70s and 80s that said a glass of wine is good for your heart have been debunked a million times since. It's the greatest brainwashing scheme that there is, okay? Social drinking leads to accidents, right? And not just car accidents, but trip and falls, and all of a sudden you hit your head and you're dead.
You might
Leads to
wind up
rape, it leads
making
to-
some decisions socially that you
Yeah,
wouldn't
you make
normally
very bad decisions. So there's no...
lead to some other accidents.
Right, there is no benefit to drink. And think about what they're trying to tell you with social drinking. What they're saying to you is that there's something so lacking in your personality that you cannot be social, that you cannot have fun without drinking. That's what they're telling you. And that's what you have bought into, right? If I'm a guy, I can't go up and talk to a woman I find attractive without drinking. I mean, nowadays,
And without getting her to drink too.
what?
And you can't do it without drinking, and you got to get her to drink something.
And you got to get her to drink something too, right? I mean, nowadays everything's done on apps, so that probably doesn't apply. But like, you know, so they're telling you that your social skills are so bad, and your idea of who you are is so poor that you can't do anything without drinking. So to have fun, you need to drink, right? When you're down and depressed, you need to drink. It's the end of the day after a stressful day, you need to drink. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, let's do happy hour. They have no faith in who you are. And what's really sad about that is you've bought into it, so you have no faith in who you are. And you want to be black kings.
It's tight, but it's right.
I mean, but how am I supposed to answer a question after that? You know. But anyway, so the question about image. Image is everything. And, you know, for black men, we've been forced to, I think, have to have a more acute focus around image, you know, particularly when we work in a corporate context. And I'm gonna just tell you one quick story about why that matters. So many moons ago, I used to be an investigative reporter at ABC News. And one of my biggest assignments was to be on the Bernie Madoff story. Are y'all familiar with the Bernie Madoff? So my assignment was to do a stakeout outside of his son Mark Madoff's apartment. You know, we thought that the sons were involved in the scheme. And so my job was to stake out, hang out, and then, you know, once I saw him, hop out with the camera. Mark Madoff, what did you know about your father's scheme? Capture the B-roll, get it back to the office. And so when you do a stakeout, you can't be dressed like this. You know, you have to, you know, I had on a Yankee fitted, I had on a dark hoodie. You know, I just looked like a corner boy hanging out outside of this apartment building. You know, a lot of rich people lived in that building. Kanye and Amber Rose lived there. Bon Jovi lived there. I would see them come and go. It was interesting work. And I remember going back to the office, and my direct manager, white woman, she looked at me. She says, "Oh, look at you, like a thug," right? And you know, she didn't say it with any racist intent or anything like that. It was, you know, but it stuck with me, and eventually, you know, it curdled into a sense of disappointment. It turned into a little bit of anger as well, because y'all remember, not too long after that, a young man was rocking a hoodie. He was walking through his neighborhood a little north of here in Sanford, Florida, was talking to his girl on the phone, had some Skittles. Somebody thought he looked like a thug, and they shot him dead. This society, it sees black men as larger and as more threatening. They see us as monsters that have no business roaming the streets freely, let alone calling the shots in corporate America, right? We have to disarm people, and you know, we have to disarm people with how we dress. We have to disarm people with our attitude and with our charm. We have to cultivate a cool pose, right? As black men, we're taught to be unbothered. We've been taught to repress any negative emotion. We've been taught to be cool, right? But pressure burst pipes and holding it in, wearing that image comes with a level of complications, and I know that we could have a whole discussion around the repression of emotions. So,
Well, we did yesterday with the mental health session.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say image very much matters. It's a physical thing. It's how we comport ourselves. It's how we speak. It's how we code switch. Unfortunately, yes, we do have to code switch, and there's a way to retain your sanity while you're doing it, and I talk a lot about that in my book. We got to make our peace with it. Right? There's a double-edged sword to it because we're trying to fit into this American society as full Americans, but also as black men. And so image is very much a part of that, and it's something that I'm teaching my son about. It's just a reality we have to deal with.
But the key is to be able to manage the image while not losing your self-image.
Without losing
which
yourself.
Which is the point that all three of you have made.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for having this conversation. My name is Jason Williams. I am National Sales Manager with my company. I'm also a certified personal trainer on the side. I love training people. Can you, each one of you, speak to the point of this isn't something that's you're going to get better in 2 months, 3 months. This is a lifestyle change. I think my friends, they always say, man, you're always in the gym. I'm like, yeah, I am always in the gym, so what? Like, at the end of the day, when I come out of the gym, I understand that when I put my body through at the gym for 2 hours, man, whatever happens to me, for 9 to 5 or 9 to 8, I can handle it. So could you speak to even the mental side of the lifestyle change when it comes to physical and mental? Can you gentlemen speak to that?
Yeah, I want to start with Julian. People say, why do you work out every day? I say, because I eat every day. It's part of my life. I do it to stay alive. I do it to be, it's not an optional exercise in the two ways. It's part of living robustly. But Julian, and then of course, either you brothers can jump in.
It's stress resilience. A lot of times people say, I want to get rid of stress. And if you're trying to do anything worthwhile in this world, trying to build anything, you're going to have stress. It's not going anywhere. There was a study last year, 55% of CEOs were reporting more mental health problems, seeking executive therapy. So if that's the area that you want to get to, you're going to have even more stress. And so that's where the exercise comes in. That's where the physical activity comes in. It's a buffer for that. And just to speak up on what he said, you're helping your executive presence there as well. Image is currency. When someone walks in a room, great posture, a good aura to themselves, that's a lot different than someone who's a little more, who doesn't have that, maybe is a little more frumpy, doesn't have that inner confidence that exercise can give you. Lastly, really quick, a lot of times we're going to go throughout the day, we're not going to have a win. When you're building a business, when you're trying to climb up, there's a lot of days where you're not going to have any progress. Getting a workout in, that's a way that you can get a win and at least feel good about yourself from a self-confidence standpoint.
True.
One thing I'll add too, so it's very important to work out. It's very important to have that as a lifestyle. I told you about that physical I got. I actually reversed all my numbers, got back to normal within 3 months because I was focused, right? But it has to be, you don't just get there and then go back to the bad habits, right? You're trying to maintain that as a lifestyle. So definitely you have to allocate your time. For you have enough time to be in the gym for 2 hours. I don't. An hour, yeah. So for me, it's an hour. I carve out that time, but make sure you make time for yourself. Your minimum should be 150 minutes a week. That's the minimum. The maximum should be 300 minutes a week. And you can carve out your time. You can allocate your time as you build that out. But definitely prioritize working out, but also prioritize rest, brother.
Yes. Rest and recovery is part of training.
Recovery, yes. I grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist household. They made you rest on Saturday, right? And you look at the longevity rates. Adventists in certain communities are among the blue zones. Y'all gonna watch that movie, right? So make sure that you get your rest and your recovery as well.
Guys, I just got the final remarks wrap-up sign, so appreciate it. The brothers will still be here, so if you want to talk to them and ask questions one-on-one, I just like each of you to just kind of make a closing statement. If you get these brothers to walk out with one idea that will help them make some different changes in the way they live their lives, than what they were making when they came in, what would it be? I want to start with you, Julian.
Yeah, so I guarantee a lot of you in here know where you want to be with your wealth. You have a vision for that. You're talking about generational wealth and all that. But I challenge you, how many of you have thought about generational health in the same regard? How many of you have really pictured where you want to be 40 years with your health? What does that look like? So I know a lot of us are going to go on a flight at this time, so I challenge you to take 5 to 10 minutes and really write down what does optimal health look like to you. Not just free of disease, but really write it down. What activities are you doing? Do you see your great-grandkids? Do you see your grandchildren? Not just see them, but are you participating? Be very vivid, just like you are with your career.
Dr. Philippe?
So both disease and health is a process. You get to choose what process you want to be part of. I alluded to earlier when I first started that I'm a 2-time kidney transplant recipient. There are 2 reasons why I was able to get 2 kidney transplants, despite kidney failure and dialysis, and you see people sitting on dialysis for years. The first is because I took good care of myself. I invested in myself. I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I exercised, even when I was on dialysis. People are going to invest in people who invest in themselves first and foremost. The second reason is that 2 black men loved me enough to donate a kidney to me. The first was my father. The second was my cousin-in-law, Scott, so somebody that's not even blood related to me. And they're both doing well and healthy and enjoying life. But it taught me that in order to be successful in health, in business, in life, you can't do it alone. I needed other people's organs just to survive, just to be sitting on this stage with you. I don't like seeing people trying to get healthy or transform their lives alone. And I don't want you guys to leave here, go back to your lives and try to figure it out. So I want to do it with you. And so coming into this conference, I created an offer just for you guys called The Blueprint to Greatness, Rewiring Your Brains for Health and Success. And I want you to be part of this group. So if you take out your phones and you put in, it's a bit.ly site, and you put in Black Men X, you will see the offer. That offer expires today at 7 p.m. If within the next hour you put in the coupon code XL, so XCEL, then you get an additional discount off the offer. We could leave here together and continue the greatness that we have witnessed here the last couple of days. And we can all help each other transform our health, our businesses, and our lives. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Douyon.
Closing point for me, real simple. Majority of black men do not go to the doctor regularly. And there are a lot of reasons for this. There are historical reasons for this. Justifiable ones is a justifiable lack of trust in the American healthcare system in black communities. And we can have a whole other panel discussion about why. But one challenge I have for the brothers in this room is if you have not gotten your annual physical, I want you to make an appointment, get your physical, go through the process, try to find a doctor that you feel comfortable with, somebody that you can vibe with, check out their profiles. My wife did the work for me. She found somebody she thought I would vibe with, and she was right. But just schedule that appointment, face the truth about your health, and whatever changes that you got to make them. A lot of the issues that we wind up dealing with, hypertension, high cholesterol, even certain types of cancers, they're all tied to lifestyle choices. So just get checked out and just face whatever it is and just deal with it, because we need y'all to live.
Thank you, brothers. Please give these brothers a round of applause. And give a round of applause to, again, to Walmart, who this is not just an investment for today. They've been investing in this topic for years.